For such a tentpole release with inspiring vistas and a lush orchestral score, Destiny is a weirdly soulless game. Much like the Thief reboot, there's a skeleton of a narrative that had been clearly approved, half-implemented, then scrapped and cobbled back together to form a nonsensical series of exposition dumps and scripted events that never really congeal into what one might call a proper plot.
We're back. On Mars.
Are we? Are we, Peter Dinklage? Because last time I looked, Mars is red.
For centuries we feared the forces of darkness massing against us. We sought to hide and cower beneath a broken god. No more.
Uh-oh, better cut off Bill Nye with a different cutscene before people pick up on the fact that he's talking about the Traveler being evil.
Who are you?
Why have you been watching us?
I don't even have time to explain why I don't have time to explain.
It's like the game's lampshading its lack of sense before I can even call it out.
It's all starting to make sense.
Actually, you want to see the one moment where the game, has character? There's one, exactly one moment where the game almost opens up and reveals a bit of humanity. Here, it's this.
I wasn't talking to you, little light.
I'm a ghost, actually. Can't we just stay here with the murderous robots?
No, little light.
Don't do that.
There, that's it. That's it. 10 seconds of footage in a game that spans maybe 6 hours that people have dumped hundreds of hours into, and that's all the humanity you get to stretch across the entire experience. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's gorgeous and it plays great. There's just not a lot of there, you know? No story, no characters, no discernible themes. The light-dark thing is played completely without irony or any subversion. It feels less like a grand space opera and more like some Space Marine action figures that have a variety of playsets to let them have adventures in. And not like name-brand licensed ones, but the cheap offshoots that require you to sort of make up your own backstory because they certainly don't provide one. So if it's this vapid, empty shell of a game, why have I logged probably 100 or 200 hours into it? Well, first of all, there's the whole game feel thing. It takes the best parts of what made Halo work and combines them with a lot of what Call of Duty did right, and the result is a game that just feels really good to play, especially in the context of it being designed from the ground up as a console game. The critical hit zones on enemies are just the right size for analog stick input. They require skill to hit, but aren't super small targets asking for per-pixel aiming. There's just enough weapon spread and splash damage and auto-aim that you don't feel like you need a mouse for the added precision, but you also don't feel like the game's playing itself for you. The animations and sounds for both the guns and the monsters sell the idea that you're firing these really powerful weapons at aliens. And for their part, the aliens all have a chance to flinch when getting hurt. Doom nerds would call it a pain state. It helps juggle crowds of enemies by making some of them immobile, something we haven't really seen much of in modern military shooters. Also, unlike modern military shooters, most of the bad guys' weapons aren't hit-scan, so you can generally move to dodge fire, which means there's a bit of a defensive game where movement is key in a way it isn't in other titles. You can't dodge bullets in Call of Duty, but you can dodge bullets here. You can't control the crowds in Call of Duty, but you can control the crowds here. Like Call of Duty, though, most of the player weapons are hit-scan. That's necessary because with dual analog sticks, it's hard enough to aim at a target, let alone lead appropriately. By combining these two approaches, Destiny has this wonderful hybrid of 90s-style run-and-gun gameplay on the defensive side, and a lot of the stop-and-pop strategic play on the offensive side. It's circle strafing and jetpacks when you need to heal, and downscope headshots when you're pushing forward, and it nails the feel of both approaches really well. And, well, if you're gonna play a big, dumb, nerdy power fantasy about being some sort of space knight on a crusade, you might as well feel that big, dumb power flowing through you. The other reason I've dumped so much time into Destiny is that, well, how do I put this? The game launched with aspirations of being an FPS MMO hybrid, although decidedly less World of Warcraft and more Phantasy Star Online or the original Guild Wars. And while that stuff is all there, the looting and the questing and the class selection and even the raids that require some team-based coordination, I don't find those games reflect how I've ended up playing Destiny. I've taken to playing the game like, well, Animal Crossing. Which, I mean, I get that that sounds absurd at first. A slice-of-life game and a big epic FPS MMO don't seem like they have a lot in common. And yet, my arc of playing both games has felt really similar. There's that binge early on when everything is new and progress is really easy. In Animal Crossing, it's because your museum is empty and your mortgage is really cheap. And in Destiny, it's because your inventory is empty and pretty much any action instantly rewards you with plenty of experience. But over time, you reach that cap, that plateau, that point where it's no longer enough to just do anything and make progress. You've had your fill of trash items and you need the rare stuff. You've burned through the easy grinds and need to pay off that big investment, whether it's Nook's mortgage or your Vanguard rank. But both games are structured in a way that prevents you from easily doing that all at once. I mean, yeah, you could catch fish or run patrol missions for hour after hour, but that's not the most engaging way to play. Instead, the way the games want you to make progress is to play it daily in fits and spurts, because after a certain amount of play on any one day, you'll just be grinding currency instead of making real progress. So you find what activities you like and just do those each day. In Animal Crossing, it might be your daily bell rock or fossils, and in Destiny, it might be your daily bounties or the daily heroic mission. And to spice things up, there are weekly events that take a little bit more time and dedication, whether it's passing a Gracie fashion check or completing a heroic strike or even the Nightfall missions. And both games have holidays, kind of. We just had Festival in Animal Crossing, and the Iron Banner event just started this week. One's maybe more festive and special than the other, but hey. I mean, both games even have characters that show up once a week to sell extremely rare items. The point is that I've settled into a groove with Destiny, and it's the same groove that Animal Crossing takes up. Pop open the game, see what's going on today or even this week, then leisurely tackle whatever I feel comfortable with friends or in isolation. Whether it's 30 minutes or an hour or two, you can hop on, check out what's happening, and make a bit of progress. It's a pseudo-daily or maybe weekly ritual that feels good to complete, like a virtual chore that needs doing. And that may sound boring, I guess, but there's something about ritualizing play that makes it rewarding for its own sake. It gives your day a sense of order and achievement. And that concept's not exactly new. I mean, you could trace it back to stuff like Tamagotchis. Every day you put in a little bit of effort towards making progress on distant goals, and even once those goals are achieved, there's always another further goal. And it's that permanent long-view progress that makes filling up bars in Destiny feel more rewarding than filling up bars in, say, Call of Duty or Evolve. Presenting characters with a singular, monolithic grind with regular content unlocks can burn players out. Instead of slow, measured progress towards a distant goal, you're always a few hundred XP away from another trinket. And in Call of Duty's case, once you reach the very concrete end, you're supposed to start over for a slightly fancier icon next to your name. Those sorts of games ask that you binge and purge, to get as far as you can, as fast as you can, and then call it a day, or worse, start over. And there's something about that Sisyphean approach that always leaves me empty in a way that Destiny, Nintendogs, or Animal Crossing don't. Destiny is not a moving, thoughtful, or emotional experience. In a lot of ways, it isn't even an interesting experience. But I do find it a satisfying experience. It's satisfying in its moment-to-moment game feel, somehow evoking Halo and Call of Duty with equal ease. And it's satisfying in a more general way by making its slow, casual grind something I can integrate into my daily routine. And for what is essentially an off-brand Space Marine action figure playset, it's a testament to the power of those two achievements that I'm still playing the game months after launch.
Party it down.